The stranger in the snow. The wind screamed across the frozen land. White snow danced in the air like ghosts searching for warmth. The world was silent except for the storm, and in the middle of that endless white, a man walked alone. His name was Elias Grant, a human survivor. He had been traveling for days without food, without hope. His heavy coat was torn, his face burned by the cold. Each breath came out as mist, fading fast into the empty world. Long ago, this planet was green and full of life. But the war between humans and the alien race, called the Valen, had ended everything. The ice came after the war, spreading fast, killing everything in its path. Elias had lost his family, his home, and almost his mind. Now he only walked because stopping meant death. Then he heard it. A sound that did not belong to the storm. A small cry, weak but sharp, like a whisper of life in a dead world. Elias froze, his eyes scanning the snow. Was it an animal? Or was it something worse? He followed the sound, his boots crunching through the snow. The wind howled louder, trying to bury the noise. But he was sure now. It was a child. A child was crying somewhere ahead. He reached a broken spacecraft, half buried in ice. The metal hull was scorched and cracked. It looked like it had fallen from the sky only hours ago. Elias pushed through the wreckage and looked inside. At first, he saw nothing but smoke and frozen metal. Then he saw her, a small figure curled up near a blinking light. The child's skin glowed faintly blue. Her eyes were large, bright, and full of fear. She wasn't human. Elias stepped closer, his hand shaking. The story said all aliens were dangerous, that they killed humans without mercy. But this little one, she was just a child, barely breathing, trembling in the cold. He knelt beside her. Hey, it's okay," he whispered, his voice rough and low. The child didn't answer. She just stared at him with wide, glowing eyes. Her skin shimmered like ice under the weak light. Something moved behind the wreckage. Elias turned fast, his hand reaching for the knife on his belt. A shadow stepped out, tall and wounded. It was her mother, a Valen woman, pale blue and bleeding from her shoulder. Her eyes blazed like burning stars. When she saw Elias, she hissed softly, her voice trembling. "Don't hurt her." Elias froze. He could have killed her right there. She was the enemy. But in that moment, he saw not a soldier, not a monster. He saw a mother trying to protect her child. And he understood that feeling too well. "I won't," he said quietly. "I just want to help." The Valen woman stared at him, her eyes full of doubt. Then she nodded weakly and collapsed into the snow. Elias rushed forward, checking her pulse. She was alive, but barely. He looked between the woman and the child. The storm was growing worse, the cold biting harder. If he stayed here, they would all die. He had only one choice. Elias lifted the child first, wrapping her in his torn coat. She was so light, like carrying a small flame. Then he dragged the woman out of the wreck. His legs screamed with pain, but he didn't stop. The old shelter he'd used before was only a mile away. If he could reach it, they might survive the night. The storm followed him like a living beast. Snow cut his face. Wind tore at his body. But Elias kept going, one step at a time. Behind him, the wreck disappeared under white. Ahead, a small cave waited in the frozen cliffs. He stumbled inside, falling to his knees. The air was still freezing, but at least the wind was gone. He laid the child down gently near the small fire pit. Then he placed the mother beside her. Her breathing was weak, but steady. Elias lit a small flame, the only warmth in the dark. The child stirred, looking at him again. Her eyes glowed softly in the firelight. "Who are you?" she whispered, her voice fragile but clear. Elias hesitated. He hadn't heard another living voice in months. He smiled faintly. "Just someone who didn't want you to die," he said. The child looked at her mother, then back at him. "Humans hate us," she said quietly. Elias sighed. "Maybe." he answered. But not today. For a long moment, they sat in silence. Only the fire crackled. Outside, the storm raged. Inside, for the first time in years, Elias felt something new. Shadows in the ice. The storm finally slept, leaving behind a world of white silence. Elias woke to the faint crackle of dying fire. His hands numb, his breath heavy. For a moment, he forgot where he was. Then he saw them. The alien child asleep near the flames, and her mother lying still beside her. He stared at them for a long time. He still couldn't understand why he had saved them. Maybe it was because of the way the child looked at him. Like she believed he was someone good, someone safe. He hadn't been called that in a very long time. The woman moved suddenly, gasping for air. Elias rushed over, holding her shoulders gently. "Easy," he said. "You're safe here." Her eyes opened, glowing with that soft blue light. For a moment, she didn't move, only watched him carefully. You helped us," she whispered, her voice rough like frozen glass. Elias nodded. "You were dying." The woman tried to sit up, pain flashing across her face. Her wound had frozen shut, but it still looked bad. Elias took a small bottle of melted snow water and offered it to her. She hesitated, then drank slowly, never taking her eyes off him. "My name is Elias," he said quietly. "What's yours?" She looked at the sleeping child, then back at him. "I am Sarah, and this is my daughter." "Lyra." Her voice broke slightly on the name, as if saying it hurt. Elias nodded. "Nice to meet you both, I guess," he said with a weak smile. Sarah didn't smile back. Instead, she looked toward the cave entrance, her face turning pale. They will come," she whispered. "Who?" Elias asked. "The hunters," she said. "They will not stop until they find her." Elias felt a chill that had nothing to do with the cold. He had heard of alien patrols before. Machines and soldiers that moved across the wastelands, killing anything that moved. But if they were after the child, that meant something more. "Why her?" he asked. Sarah looked away. "She is not just a child," she said. "She carries something they want, something powerful." Elias frowned. "Then we need to leave this place before they find us." Sarah shook her head. Weakly, "They will track her energy, no matter where we go, unless—" She paused. "Unless you help me hide it." He didn't understand how, but he saw the fear in her eyes. The same fear a parent feels when they know danger is near. "I'll help," he said simply. Sarah looked surprised. "Why? You owe us nothing." Elias glanced at Lara, still sleeping, her small hand resting near the firelight. "Because someone once tried to save my child too," he said softly. And failed. Silence filled the cave again. Then Sarah reached into her torn jacket and pulled out a small glowing crystal. It pulsed softly like a heartbeat. "This," she said, "is what they want." Elias felt the warmth from it, even from a distance. "What is it?" "It is called the heart of Enral," she said. "It gives life to my kind, and death to those who misuse it." Before Elias could ask more, the child stirred. Lyra's eyes opened, glowing faintly. She looked at her mother first, then at Elias. "Are we going now?" she asked. Sarah smiled faintly. "Soon." "My light." Elias stood and walked to the mouth of the cave. The storm had cleared, but the sky was grey and heavy. Far on the horizon, dark shapes moved, small dots growing larger every second. He raised his rifle, squinting. They weren't animals. They were drones, black and silent, sweeping the ice like vultures. "They're coming," he said sharply. Sarah pulled herself up, clutching the crystal. Elias grabbed his pack and threw snow over the fire. They had to move now. He picked up Lyra and helped Sarah to her feet. They stepped out into the cold world once more. The wind had softened, but every step felt heavy. Elias led the way through the frozen cliffs. Behind them, the hum of drones grew louder. Sarah stumbled, but Elias caught her each time. "We can't outrun them," she said, her voice shaking. Then we'll outsmart them, he replied. He led them toward an old mining tunnel he had found months ago, half buried under snow. If they could reach it, they might have a chance. Just before they entered, Lyra spoke. Someone is watching us, she whispered. Elias turned fast, but saw nothing. Then from the fog, a tall figure appeared. Wrapped in black armor, a mask covered his face, and red lights glowed from his visor. The stranger raised a weapon, aiming it directly at them. Syrah gasped, pulling Lyra close. Elias stepped forward, rifle raised. Stay behind me, he said, his voice firm. The armored figure spoke, his voice deep and cold. Give me the child, and you may live. Elias tightened his grip on the gun. Not happening, he said. The man tilted his head slightly. Then you die first. Human. Before Elias could fire, the ground shook. A hidden explosion erupted behind the stranger. Ice shattered. Snow burst upward like a wave. The man disappeared into the smoke. Elias didn't wait to see what happened next. He pulled Syrah and Lyra into the tunnel, sealing the entrance behind them with fallen ice. Inside, it was dark and narrow. Their breaths echoed in the cold silence. Lyra clung to him, her tiny hands trembling. Elias could feel his heart pounding. Outside, distant voices echoed through the snow. They weren't safe yet, but they were alive. And for the first time in years, Elias felt the fire of purpose, burning the echoes below. The tunnel was cold and dark, stretching deep under the frozen cliffs. Elias held a small light, its glow weak but enough to guide them. Behind him, Syrah walked slowly, one hand pressed against the wall for balance. Lyra clung to her mother's cloak, her small steps echoing softly. The air smelled of dust and metal. Old signs hung from the ceiling, their words broken by rust. This place had once been a human mining station, long before the war turned everything to ice. Elias moved carefully, scanning the walls. Stay close, he said. There are old machines down here, some still alive. Syrah nodded weakly, her eyes glowing faintly in the dark. Lyra looked around with curiosity. Her small voice broke the silence. Why did humans dig into the ground? Elias smiled slightly. For hope, he said. They were looking for something valuable, something that could make life better. Lyra tilted her head. Did they find it? Elias's smile faded. They found war instead. For a long time, they walked in silence. Only the soft hum of the old tunnels filled the air. But then the ground trembled slightly. Syrah stopped, looking around with sudden fear. They're scanning for us, she whispered. Elias nodded grimly. The drones? Yes, and more, she said. Hunters never come alone. They hurried deeper into the tunnels. The walls began to change. Carved markings, strange symbols mixed with human letters. Elias brushed snow off one of the walls and froze. There was a symbol burned into the stone. It was the same as the mark on Lyra's hand. He turned to Syrah. What does this mean? She looked at the mark, her face pale. This place. It was not built only by humans, she said softly. My people helped once, long ago, before the war. Elias blinked. You're saying humans and Valen worked together? Yes, she said. To build the tunnels, to build hope. Her voice trembled as she spoke. But when fear came, that hope died. They reached a large chamber, its roof lost in shadow. Old machines stood silent like frozen giants. In the center was a round table made of black metal. Symbols glowed faintly across its surface. Lyra's eyes widened as she stepped forward. It's calling me, she whispered. Elias caught her shoulder gently. What do you mean? The table, she said. It's speaking. Syrah looked worried. Lyra, stop, she said. But it was too late. The child touched the table. Light exploded through the room, flooding every corner. Elias stumbled back, shielding his eyes. When the light dimmed, the table was alive. Holograms flickered above it. Images of the world before the war, cities shining, humans and Valen walking side by side. Elias stared in disbelief. He had never seen such things. Syrah whispered softly. It remembers. What is this place? Elias asked. Syrah stepped closer to the light, her voice low and full of awe. It's a sanctuary node, she said. A hidden place built to protect life, not destroy it. Lyra looked at the holograms. Her small hand reached out again, and a soft voice echoed through the air. Genetic signature confirmed. It said, Welcome, child of the heart. Elias and Syrah froze. The light formed a circle around Lyra, glowing brighter with each heartbeat. What's happening to her? Elias shouted. Syrah's eyes filled with tears. She is awakening, she whispered, the heart of Enral inside her. It's merging with her life force. Suddenly, a loud metallic noise came from the tunnel behind them. Elias turned fast, aiming his rifle. Through the darkness, red lights flickered. The hunters had found them. Get behind the table, Elias shouted. Syrah grabbed Lyra and ducked behind the black structure. Elias fired into the tunnel, sparks flashing. The shots hit armor, but did not stop the shadows coming closer. One of the drones flew into the room, scanning wildly. Target located, it said in a cold voice. Before Elias could reload, the table pulsed with energy. Blue light spread from its surface like water. The drone stopped midair, trembling, then fell to the ground, silent. Lyra's eyes glowed brightly now. I can feel them, she said quietly. They are afraid. Syrah stared in shock. She's controlling the energy. Elias looked at Lyra. Then use it, he said. Protect yourself. Lyra lifted her hands, and the room shook. Blue waves of light shot from her fingers. More drones entered, but their circuits burned instantly. Elias watched in awe as the small child stood between him and death. The light finally faded, leaving silence once more. Smoke filled the air. Syrah rushed to Lyra, holding her close. The child was breathing hard, her glow fading. She used too much, Syrah said softly. Elias kneeled beside them. She saved us, he said. Syrah nodded. Yes, but they will come again. Stronger next time. Elias looked around the chamber. The machines were waking up, lights blinking, old systems humming. He stood in the last light in the snow. The sound of machines echoed through the tunnels. Elias stood near the old control panel, his hands covered in dust and blood. The faint blue glow from Lyra's energy still flickered across the chamber walls. Syrah sat beside her daughter, whispering soft words in their alien tongue. Lyra's small hands trembled, the light inside her dim and weak. Outside, beyond the cave mouth, the frozen wasteland burned with red lights. Dozens of hunter drones were gathering. Their leader, the man in black armor, had returned. He stood tall among the snow, his voice sharp through the comms. Bring me the heart, alive if possible. Elias tightened his grip on his rifle. He turned to Syrah. They're coming again, he said. Syrah's eyes were full of worry. She's too weak to fight now, she whispered. Then I'll fight for her. Elias said firmly. He walked to the center of the chamber. The round table still hummed softly, glowing with alien symbols. Elias remembered what the voice had said earlier. Sanctuary node active. Maybe this place could still protect them. He touched the panel and the floor vibrated gently. Come on, he muttered. Show me what you can do, a soft voice answered from the walls. Defense protocol. Human command detected. Elias froze, surprised. You can hear me. Affirmative, the voice said. State directive. Elias looked toward the tunnel, where red lights flashed closer. Defend the child, he said. Protect her, no matter what. The room came alive. Blue energy pulsed through the walls. Machines whirred after centuries of silence. Old defense turrets rose from the ground. aiming toward the tunnel entrance. Syrah stared in awe. "You woke the Guardian systems," she whispered. Elias gave a faint smile. "Guess the old miners left more than shovels down here." The first explosion came a moment later. The hunters broke through the ice wall, filling the tunnel with fire and smoke. Elias stood his ground, the turrets firing beams of light that tore through the machines. But the enemy kept coming. Their leader stepped forward, unharmed. His armor reflected the blue glow, like a mirror of death. "Human," the armored man shouted. "You protect what you cannot understand." Elias aimed his rifle. "Maybe I don't need to understand," he said. "I just know right from wrong." The man raised his arm and fired. Elias dove aside as the blast shattered the floor. Syrah screamed, shielding Lyra with her body. Pieces of ice fell from the ceiling. The chamber began to collapse. Elias crawled toward his weapon, but the armored man grabbed him by the throat and lifted him. "You are nothing," the voice hissed through the mask. "Just a dying relic of a dead world." Elias gasped, his vision darkening. But behind the soldier, a faint blue light was rising. Lyra stood weakly, her eyes glowing once more. "Let him go," she said, her small voice echoing like thunder. The soldier turned. Lyra raised her hand, and the heart of Enral burst to life. A wave of light swept through the chamber. Shaking the air, the soldier screamed as his armor began to crack. Syrah held her daughter's shoulders, shouting, "Lyra, stop! You'll destroy yourself." But Lyra didn't stop. Tears streamed down her face as she looked at Elias. "Thank you for saving me," she said. Elias shook his head, struggling to breathe. "No, Lyra," he whispered. "You save yourself." The light grew brighter, flooding everything. The hunter machines melted into shadows, their red eyes fading. The armored man fell to his knees, his mask shattering. Underneath, his face was human. Elias stared in shock. "Another survivor," he breathed. The man smiled weakly. "Not anymore," he said, as the light consumed him. Then there was silence. The storm outside had stopped. The world above was still. Only the sound of soft wind filled the air again. When Elias opened his eyes, he was lying on the ground. The table still glowed faintly. Syrah was beside him, holding Lyra in her arms. The child's glow had faded completely. Elias's chest tightened. Syrah shook her head slowly, tears falling. "She's alive," she whispered, "but sleeping. The heart inside her is at peace now." Elias sat up slowly, his body aching. The chamber looked different now, brighter, warmer somehow. The machines had powered down, leaving only quiet light. He looked at Syrah. "So what now?" Syrah looked at the sleeping Lyra. "She carries the last hope of both our worlds," she said. "She must live." Elias nodded. "Then we keep moving," he said. Syrah looked at him, confused. "Why would you still help us?" Elias smiled faintly. "Because she gave me back something I thought was lost," he said. "A reason to fight." He walked toward the tunnel exit, looking out at the world beyond. The snow was melting, slowly, like the planet was taking a new breath. Blue light shimmered across the horizon. Syrah joined him, holding Lyra close. "The ice is breaking," she said softly. Elias nodded. "Maybe the world is ready to start again." They stepped into the pale sunlight. The sky above them cracked open with color. It wasn't warm yet, but it was changing. And somewhere deep beneath the ice, the sanctuary node whispered one final message. Hope restored. Elias looked down at Lyra's sleeping face. He smiled. "Yeah," he said quietly. "Hope restored. And for the first time in many years, the frozen wastelands began to thaw.